When a narcissist realizes you refuse to be controlled, something shifts. The mask drops, the charm evaporates, and what emerges is not just anger. It is something far more calculated, far more dangerous, and far more terrifying than you ever imagined. Carl Jung spent decades documenting this exact moment. He called it the psychological death spiral, and what he discovered will change how you see every narcissist in your life forever. Jung understood that when you finally say no, when you finally establish boundaries, when you finally refuse to play their game, the narcissist does not simply get upset. They experience what Jung described as a collapse of their God image. You become the mirror that no longer reflects their perfection, and mirrors that tell uncomfortable truths must be destroyed. But here is the part that terrified Jung the most. The narcissist's response is not random chaos. It is a predictable, methodical, psychological warfare designed to annihilate your sense of reality itself. Why does their mask fall exactly when you stop feeding their need for control? Because you have triggered something Jung called the narcissistic injury, and the injury demands retaliation. Jung treated a patient in 1920 who would forever change his understanding of this pattern. The patient was a successful businessman, charming to everyone around him, respected in his community. But behind closed doors, he ruled his family with psychological terror, disguised as love. His wife had finally gathered the courage to challenge one of his decisions. Not with aggression, not with drama. She simply said no. What happened next shocked even Jung. The man did not yell, he did not threaten. Instead, he became eerily calm. Over the following weeks, he systematically turned their children against her. He convinced her family she was having a breakdown. He told their friends she had become unstable and needed help. Within 3 months, this woman who had simply said no found herself completely isolated, doubting her own sanity, wondering if perhaps she was the problem after all. Jung realized he was not witnessing a mental illness. He was observing a sophisticated psychological mechanism. When the narcissist loses control, they do not collapse. They calculate, they strategize, and they do something Jung described as unthinkable. They rewrite reality itself. Let me explain what Jung discovered about the narcissist's internal world. For the narcissist, control is not about power, it is about existence itself. Jung understood that narcissists construct what he called a false self, a grandiose image they present to the world. But this false self requires constant validation. It needs what Jung termed psychological fuel. And that fuel comes from the people they control. When you submit to their demands, when you adjust your behavior to accommodate their moods, when you walk on eggshells to avoid their anger, you are providing that fuel. You are confirming their internal narrative that they are special, superior, deserving of this control. Your compliance is not just convenient for them, it is essential to their psychological survival. Now, imagine what happens when you stop, when you refuse to be controlled. In that moment, you are not just setting a boundary, you are threatening the narcissist's entire sense of self. Jung called this the collapse of the God image. The narcissist has constructed an internal world where they are the center, where everyone exists to serve. Their needs, where their perception is the only reality that matters. Your refusal shatters that world. But here is what makes this so dangerous. The narcissist cannot accept that their perception is flawed. They cannot integrate the reality that they are not superior, not special, not entitled to control. So their unconscious mind does something terrifying. It projects. It takes every quality they cannot accept in themselves and attributes it to you. If they are manipulative, they will convince the world you are the manipulator. If they are abusive, they will position themselves as your victim. If they are cruel, they will paint you as the villain. Jung called this shadow projection, and it is the narcissist's most devastating weapon. Jung documented this pattern across dozens of cases. The moment the narcissist loses control, they begin what modern psychology calls a smear campaign. But Jung understood it was more than gossip or revenge. It was an unconscious attempt to restore their shattered self-image by destroying yours. They are not consciously choosing to lie about you. Their psyche has actually rewritten the narrative to make themselves the victim and you the aggressor. This is why you cannot reason with them. This is why evidence does not matter. This is why your attempts to defend yourself only make things worse. You are not dealing with someone who is mistaken about reality. You are dealing with someone whose unconscious mind has literally altered their perception of reality to protect their fragile ego. Think about what this means for a moment. The narcissist genuinely believes the distorted version of events they are spreading. In their mind, they are the wounded party. They are the one who has been wronged. They are simply warning others about your dangerous behavior. This conviction makes them extraordinarily persuasive. People believe them because they are not consciously lying. They are sharing what they truly perceive as the truth. Jung observed that this makes the smear campaign almost impossible to defend against. If you stay silent, people assume the accusations are true. If you defend yourself, you appear defensive and guilty. If you present evidence, empaths aren't broken, they're alchemists in progress. The alchemist's path gives you drills, Jung-based boundaries, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to turn overwhelm into clarity. By Surreal Mind, 236-page downloadable ebook in stock. Begin now at thesurrealmind.com. You seem obsessed and unstable. The narcissist has created a perfect psychological trap where every possible response strengthens their narrative. But the smear campaign is only the beginning of what Jung called the unthinkable act. Because once the narcissist realizes you are serious about refusing control, they escalate. They enter what Jung termed the extinction burst. This is the moment when the narcissist's behavior becomes most unpredictable and most dangerous. During the extinction burst, the narcissist will try every tactic in their arsenal. They might suddenly become the person you always wanted them to be, apologizing, promising change, declaring their love. This is not genuine transformation. It is a calculated attempt to regain control. Jung observed that narcissists will mirror your deepest desires during this phase, not because they have changed, but because they are desperate to re-establish their power over you. If love bombing does not work, they switch tactics. They might create emergencies that require your attention, sudden health crises, financial disasters, family emergencies that only you can solve. Jung noted that narcissists have an uncanny ability to manifest crises exactly when you are pulling away. These are not coincidences. They are unconscious manipulations designed to pull you back into the drama. And if manufactured crises fail, the narcissist moves to their final tactic: complete withdrawal. Jung called this the death of the persona. The warm, charming person you thought you knew disappears entirely. In their place is a cold stranger who looks at you with contempt, speaks to you with disdain, treats you as if you never mattered at all. This sudden shift from loving partner or parent to absolute stranger is perhaps the most psychologically devastating aspect of the narcissistic collapse. Jung treated a woman whose mother had been loving and attentive for 40 years. The daughter finally confronted her mother about a childhood trauma. The mother's response was to cut off all contact. No explanation, no conversation, just silence. The daughter spent 2 years trying to understand what she had done wrong. Jung had to help her see that she had done nothing wrong. She had simply stopped playing the role her mother needed her to play. And for the narcissist, a person who refuses their assigned role might as well not exist. But here is what Jung found most terrifying about the extinction burst. The narcissist is not trying to hurt you out of anger. They are trying to reassert control through any means necessary, and if one tactic fails, they will immediately switch to another. Love to rage, to silence, to crisis, to charm. The rapid cycling through these tactics is not emotional instability. It is strategic psychological warfare. The narcissist is testing which approach will crack your defenses, which tactic will make you doubt yourself, which strategy will pull you back into engagement, and they will continue cycling through these approaches until they either succeed in regaining control or exhaust their options and move on to an easier target. Now you might be wondering how to protect yourself from this onslaught. Jung developed specific strategies based on his clinical work. But before I share those, you need to understand the trap that most people fall into. They try to fight back. They defend themselves. They attempt to prove the narcissist wrong. And every single one of these responses feeds the narcissist exactly what they want. Engagement. Jung observed that the narcissist does not care whether the attention they receive is positive or negative. They only care that they remain the center of your focus. When you defend yourself, you are confirming that their opinion matters. When you try to prove them wrong, you are giving them power over your reality. When you engage with their accusations, you are playing a game you cannot win. The narcissist will twist your words, move goalposts, bring up past events, change the subject, and use any tactic necessary to keep you engaged. Jung called this psychological quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink, because the narcissist is not interested in truth or resolution. They are interested in maintaining their control over your emotional state. So what is the solution? Jung had a remarkably simple answer: indifference, not hatred, not anger, not even hurt, just complete emotional neutrality toward the narcissist's attempts to control you. Jung observed that indifference is the only response that does not feed the narcissist's need for engagement. When you stop reacting, when you stop defending, when you stop engaging, you starve the narcissist of the fuel they desperately need. But here is the challenge. Achieving true indifference is not easy, because the narcissist will escalate their tactics when they sense you are withdrawing. Jung documented this escalation pattern. First comes love bombing, then comes rage, then comes silent treatment, then comes crisis, then comes smear campaign. Each escalation is designed to provoke a response, any response that brings you back under their control. Jung taught his patients to expect this escalation, to prepare for it mentally, to understand that the narcissist's increasing desperation is actually a sign that your boundaries are working. The extinction burst is the narcissist's last attempt to regain control before they finally accept that you are no longer available for manipulation. And here is what happens when you maintain indifference through the entire extinction burst. The narcissist eventually moves on, not because they respect your boundaries, not because they have learned anything, but because you have stopped providing them with the psychological fuel they need. And narcissists are nothing if not efficient. They will redirect their attention to someone else who will feed their need for control and validation. Jung worked with a patient whose narcissistic father had made his life miserable for 30 years. Constant criticism, impossible standards, withdrawal of affection whenever he failed to meet expectations. The patient finally achieved indifference. He stopped defending himself. He stopped trying to earn approval. He simply accepted that his father would never change and stopped emotionally investing in the relationship. Within 6 months, his father had moved on to tormenting another family member. The patient felt guilty at first, like he had condemned someone else to suffer. But Jung helped him see that this was not his responsibility. The narcissist would find supply regardless. The only question was whether he would continue to sacrifice himself on the altar of his father's ego. This is the uncomfortable truth Jung discovered about narcissists. You cannot save them. You cannot heal them. You cannot love them into health, because narcissism is not a choice. It is a fundamental disorder in how they perceive reality and themselves. The false self they have constructed is so complete, so defended, that any threat to it is experienced as a threat to their existence itself. Jung believed that true narcissists rarely change, because change would require them to do the one thing their psyche cannot tolerate: accept that they are not special, that they are not superior, that they are, in fact, deeply wounded and in need of help. This level of self-awareness would shatter the false self they have spent a lifetime constructing. So instead of facing this truth, they project it onto others and continue the cycle of manipulation and control. The narcissist's entire psychological structure is built on avoiding this moment of self-confrontation. Every manipulation, every control tactic, every projection is ultimately about maintaining the illusion of their superiority. To change would mean admitting that the illusion was false all along, that they have hurt people not because those people deserved it, but because they needed to maintain their false self. This level of accountability is beyond what most narcissists can psychologically tolerate. But here is the beautiful part of Jung's discovery. Once you understand this pattern, once you see the narcissist clearly, their power over you evaporates. You stop taking their accusations personally, because you understand they are projecting their own shadow. You stop trying to prove yourself, because you realize their opinion is not based on reality. You stop engaging with their drama, because you recognize it as a desperate attempt to maintain control. Jung called this radical self-acceptance, not accepting the narcissist's version of you, but accepting your own worth, regardless of what they say or do. When you achieve this level of self-acceptance, the narcissist cannot touch you. They can rage, they can plot, they can turn others against you, but they cannot make you doubt yourself. And without that power, they have nothing. The narcissist's greatest weapon is your own insecurity, your need for approval, your fear of being the bad person, your hope that maybe if you just try harder, they will finally see you clearly. Jung understood that all of these vulnerabilities give the narcissist leverage. They instinctively know which buttons to push because you have shown them through years of interaction exactly where your wounds are. But when you heal those wounds yourself, when you stop looking to the narcissist for validation or approval, when you accept that their view of you says everything about them and nothing about you, their tactics lose effectiveness. You become what Jung called psychologically sovereign. Your sense of self comes from within, not from external validation. And the narcissist can no longer manipulate what they can no longer access. Jung treated hundreds of patients who were recovering from narcissistic abuse, and he noticed a common pattern among those who fully healed. They did not become hard or bitter. They did not lose their capacity for trust or love. Instead, they became discerning. They learned to recognize the red flags of narcissism early. They learned to establish boundaries before becoming entangled. They learned that walking away from toxicity is not giving up. It is choosing yourself. This is perhaps Jung's most important message about dealing with narcissists. Your refusal to be controlled is not selfish. It is an act of psychological survival. The narcissist will frame it as abandonment, as cruelty, as you being the problem. But Jung understood that maintaining boundaries with people who refuse to respect them is the healthiest thing you can do. And here is what Jung noticed about people who successfully escaped narcissistic relationships. They often experienced what felt like a rebirth. The false self they had constructed to survive the relationship, the people-pleasing persona, the constant self-doubt, all of it fell away. In its place emerged their authentic self, the person they might have been all along if they had not spent years adapting to someone else's distorted reality. Jung believed this was the gift hidden within the trauma of narcissistic abuse. It forces you to confront yourself, to examine which parts of your identity were built on the need for approval, to rebuild yourself on a foundation of self-acceptance rather than external validation. Those who do this work emerge stronger, wiser, and immune to future manipulation. But the journey is not easy. The narcissist will not let you go quietly. They will escalate, they will triangulate, they will hoover. Jung documented all of these tactics. Triangulation is when they bring others into the conflict to validate their version of reality. Hoovering is when they attempt to suck you back into the relationship after a period of silence. Each tactic is designed to break your resolve and pull you back under their control. Jung taught his patients to expect these tactics, to see them not as evidence that the narcissist still cares, but as evidence that they are desperate to regain their supply. The narcissist does not miss you. They miss the control they had over you. They do not want you back because they love you. They want you back because you represent a source of validation they can no longer access. Understanding this distinction is crucial because the narcissist can be extraordinarily convincing during hoovering attempts. They will say everything you always wanted to hear. They will appear to have changed. They will acknowledge their mistakes. But Jung warned that these changes are surface level at best. The core narcissism remains intact, and once they have successfully pulled you back, the control and manipulation will resume. The hoovering phase is perhaps the most dangerous moment in the entire cycle, because this is when the narcissist appears most genuine. They may cry real tears, express real remorse, make promises they genuinely believe in the moment. But Jung understood that these expressions come from the narcissist's false self, not their authentic core. They are capable of believing their own performance while it is happening, and then forgetting it completely once they have regained control. The only winning move is not to play. This phrase captures Jung's entire approach to dealing with narcissists. You cannot out-manipulate them. You cannot make them see reason. You cannot force them to change. The only power you have is the power to remove yourself from their game entirely. And that power is more than enough. Your refusal to be controlled was never about them. It was about you choosing to honor your own worth, to protect your own peace, to create a life where your value does not depend on someone else's approval. The narcissist will frame this as you being difficult, as you giving up on them, as you being the problem. But you now understand that this is projection, that their accusations reveal their shadow, not your truth. So if you are watching this and recognizing your own story in Jung's observations, know this. The chaos you are experiencing right now, the smear campaign, the extinction burst, the escalating tactics, all of it is temporary. It is the narcissist's desperate attempt to regain control over someone who has finally chosen themselves. And if you can maintain your boundaries through this storm, if you can achieve the indifference Jung described, you will emerge on the other side with something the narcissist can never take from you: your freedom. The narcissist can rewrite reality for everyone else. They can turn people against you. They can make you seem like the villain in their story, but they cannot actually change who you are. Your truth exists independent of their perception. And as Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who the narcissist needs you to be, but who you actually are beneath all the conditioning and manipulation and fear. If you have survived the moment when a narcissist realized you refused to be controlled, if you have weathered their extinction burst and emerged intact, share your story in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to find the courage to set their own boundaries. And if you found this exploration of Jung's insights valuable, subscribe for more content on understanding and healing from psychological manipulation, because knowledge is power and understanding is freedom. In the alchemist's path, Perception training for empaths. You'll turn overwhelm into wisdom with practical drills, Jung-inspired boundaries, and step-by-step perception training. This guide includes 3 exclusive chapter videos to deepen each lesson. Written by Surreal Mind, 236 pages, beautifully designed 8.5 by 11 downloadable ebook, in stock now. Start your training today. Feel deeply while thinking clearly. Get The Alchemist's Path at thesurrealmind.com.